What's going on? We are talking about the most, well, maybe not the most, but 4 underrated areas in Knoxville that people never or hardly ever ask about that they should know about. So let's dive in and get started. All right, so Karns, Powell, Fountain City, and South Knox. That's what we're talking about today. Before you stop this video, like, I don't care about those places. Listen, give them a chance because they are great. Number 1, let's talk about Karns. And by the way, these are in no specific order. So Karns is a sister to Harden Valley, Farragut. It is a West Knox location. And the reason why I bring it up is because rarely do people ask about it, but it is a great location and it is it's cheaper. It's cheaper than Harden Valley. It's cheaper than Farragut. But in terms of like quality of access to things and location wise, it offers very similar amenities and options, and you're still, you're getting more bang for your buck essentially. So that being said, something I really like about Karns is the fact that you can stay off I-40. So we're gonna go over the map. I'm gonna show you on the map, but you can stay off I-40. You can avoid all that. So I think that's really great. It's also a really good option if you are thinking like, I don't want to pay the $772,000 median price point. I want to pay less. So how much is the average house in Karns? Currently, right now, average sold price over the past 90 days, $404,000. So that is very different than 770 whatever thousand. And average days on market is 33. So that being said, from a price perspective, it kind of makes sense, right? Now, Karns is highly residential, so you are going to be essentially leaving Karns to go to Costco, to go to Trader Joe's, to go to Target. Even though they are close, they're not smack dab in the middle. Whereas like the Costco is in Farragut, the Trader Joe's is in West Hills, but you're not that far and you can avoid 40 to access them. You're also north of the river, so you're not having to go over bridges and cross over water and all that. So that's kind of a plus as well. When it comes to like type of housing and age of houses, primarily Karns is going to be newer homes. This is not a location for historic homes by any sense of the imagination. Downtown, you're past the historic areas of town. So it is definitely a newer area relative to historic housing. So for example, at the time of whenever I pulled data for this, what I did is a 90-day pull. So all transactions over the past 90 days, I'm making this on February 25th, and I pulled the data 90 days back from February 25th, and that resulted in 205 overall transactions in the Karns area. Now what I did is I pulled homes that were zoned for Karns High School. So some people don't list with that Karns designation. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's whatever, but so we're taking a snapshot to give us a picture of the overall view, right? So 1970 and older homes, 17 out of 205, not a lot. Every other category, 71 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99, 2000 to 2009, those are all 20 or less total listings over the past 90 days. The biggest category is 2020 and newer. That's 116 out of 205 homes. So currently right now you have D.R. Horton building there, you have Smith Built building there. Smith Built is about to start has started a huge development called Belltown. So lots of opportunity there for newer construction options. Karns is not walkable. It is windy roads. It's not walkable. It's not. Someone had asked me like, can I live there with a scooter? You can, but you have to have a helmet and knee pads, and like, it's not. Don't do that. Don't do that. So interestingly, what's interesting about this is I wanted to know how many houses are listed as level yards, and this is saying 118 out of 205, and I think that is an exaggeration, and people are talking about there's a level part of the yard, right? It's not level. There are some neighborhoods in Karns that are literally just straight up off a cliff. Now, that means some of them have awesome views, but beware, okay? Mountain views, 18 out of 205, basement, 15 out of 205, and 0 that have any sort of pool whatsoever, because it's not level. basically Karns zoned areas. When it comes to Karns High School, so you kind of have 4 main West Knox high schools. So that would be Karns, well 5 I guess technically, but Karns, Harden Valley, Farragut, Bearden, and West High. West High, that's where I went. West is more downtown, but technically is a West Knoxville High School because it's west of downtown. But when you think about getting further out, that's when you're looking at your Karns, your Farragut, your Harden Valley, and your Bearden. So Karns, by niche.com, has a B- grade, and some areas where it's saying C+, and where it's got C's are on the food, the resources and the facilities, and the academics. The food grade is literally, to me, irrelevant because they all have the same, all the schools have the same food, okay? I have taught and worked at and been a part of many Knox County schools, and all of the food is the same, with the exception of L&N. Like the second and third year was open, I thought the food was so great. Just my thoughts. So take these grades with a grain of salt. In the state of Tennessee, it is number 130 out of 386 for the most diverse, and 146 out of 353 for the best public high school teachers. Number 12 for diversity in the Knoxville area. Number 18 in the area for best teachers. Number 6, best public school in Knox County. Best public high school, I should say, out of 16, and number 10 for most diverse in Knox County. So overall, Karns, think bigger properties, think larger yards, and not historic. It is certainly an area you're going to need to drive to and from, primarily residential. All right, so if we were to type in Karns into Google Maps, this is what you're going to see. Oh my God, if I can spell it correctly. Karns, Tennessee. Not actually a town. What you see is, so it's this red dotted line. So Karns is more of like an area, not an actual town. It is kind of a part of Knox County. And as you can see, it's between basically 75 is over here going this way, Pellissippi Parkway over here. So if I look on the MLS and I just say, show me everything that's zoned Karns High School, that's what I'm saying. You've got Pellissippi this way, and 25W, which is called, what is that? Western Avenue, I believe. Oh, Clinton Highway. So Clinton Highway going up. And then basically it's just simply between, it's north, like here's downtown here. And then it is north of, so as I said, if I draw on here and I show you, okay, this is Pellissippi, and here's Clinton Highway, and then here's 40. And then this is the 640 loop here. So it's kind of all of this area in here. That is all Karns. What is great about that is that you are not that far from all the things. So for example, like if we were to talk about Costco's over here, you've got a Walmart, a Sam's Club at the Walker Springs exit, the closest Cedar Bluff, you've got multiple grocery stores. I will say most stuff back here is residential. And I will say that primarily, to me, as someone that grew up here, this is all Karns. Some people consider like this little section here of Harden Valley and over, like all this stuff to be Harden Valley. So technically 37931, which is a Karns zip code, some of that stuff is zoned for Harden Valley Academy, and 37932, which is the Harden Valley zip code, some of that dabbles into over here. So from that perspective, it's just, think it's in this little pocket north of 40 before you get to Pellissippi, once you're past downtown, essentially. So if we look at it from that perspective, without that, so we're here at downtown. To me, in my mind, once we get past like kind of this 640 loop and over and back in this area is what we would consider Karns. Now, what is great about Karns is it's north of 40 and there is no water going through it. So why am I saying that? Well, because you don't have to cross over a river, and you can take back roads pretty much anywhere to get there. So you can take Middlebrook Pike, which is what this is, going all the way out. You can take, you've got so many options for roads and access that you don't even have to get on the interstate. Karns is nice for people that are thinking maybe they want to work in Oak Ridge, because you can just scoot on over to Pellissippi and go right into Oak Ridge. If you want to work downtown, you can take Middlebrook, you can take Clinton Highway, you can take, I mean, you've got a lot of options. You got Western Avenue that's going into town. So Karns is nice for that reason. It's also significantly cheaper, which we'll talk about, but from a map perspective, just wanted to show you. I also want to point out that it is primarily residential. Like, yes, there are some stores there, but like you're going to go elsewhere for a Target. You're going to go, like, the closest Target is at Clinton Highway. You've also got one off Ray Mears, which is across the interstate. You can go into North Shore. So a lot of this is all houses. Like, there are some ball fields and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think residential. And then there is some stuff coming in at this Pellissippi and Harden Valley, Middlebrook Pike kind of area right here. So this is where we're starting to see like a brewery, Orange Hat's over there, Brown Bag. There's a Mexican place. I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff happening over here. And then you do have some like kind of stores along Harden Valley and into Middlebrook Pike that would be considered kind of Karns area. So that being said, that is Karns on the map. Think between Pellissippi before you get to downtown and north of. All right, number 2, let's talk about Powell. Let's talk about Powell. Okay, whatever. So Powell is basically the sister to Karns going east. And it kind of sits between downtown Karns, Clinton. It's kind of in this little pocket. Powell is it reminds me of Maryville in terms of like how people take pride in Powell. I worked with somebody and she grew up in Powell. She loves Powell. The people that bought our house were from Powell. I mean, it's just they love Powell, and that's how people in Maryville are. They love it. They grew up there. They love it. It's the best thing. They love it. And that's, like I said, is how Powell is. Now you've got some great real estate. Think very established neighborhoods. Think big yards. Think Powell is easy access. So Powell is similar to Karns in that it's north of 40. You can take multiple different back roads to get wherever you're going. Powell is going to be your kind of furthest north, with the exception of like Halls and Coreyton, Gibbs. Your closest kind of access to Norris Lake. Powell also has really you're not leaving Powell to shop, right? Like, there's Targets, there's gyms, there's the most giantest Kroger marketplace I think that Knoxville has. So Powell has, a lot of access to things. Interestingly, I didn't know this as I was doing this research. Powell is the headquarters. It's the headquarters for Weigel's, which is a gas station locally here. That's a chain gas station. They have pizza there, and my husband says their chicken quesadillas are great. But I'm really against gas station food, so can't tell you about that. Give them a call if you're interested. So Powell, think bigger yards, think more established, think community, think Powell. Like I said, it's just very kind of, people love it there. It is not West Knox, it's not East Knox, it's literally its own little community. And the other thing that's cool about Powell that you'll see on the map is that the schools are kind of just right in the town. And so that's cool too. All right, so in terms of kind of what's the real estate like in Powell? So I did a 90-day poll, as with everything else we're looking at today. Overall, sold price over the last 90 days is $342,239. So a little less expensive than Karns by not a little, about $60,000 cheaper on average than Karns property. 98% sell to list price ratio. 32 days on market, so moving a day quicker than Karns. Now, this again is not an area for historic properties. There are some older properties there, but not historic. Think like 60s, 70s, so what I did is pulled property zone for Powell High School, because that was the best way to kind of hone in on that area and that area stats. So out of 90 days, we had 101 overall transactions. 25 of those were 1970 or newer, but I want to tell you that those are not like 30s and 40s houses. Those are 60s and 70s. And then when it comes to new construction, on the opposite end, 23 out of 101 were new construction. So similarly, you've got Smith Built Building there and some other builders. Not really a Ball Homes area, not a Saddlebrook. So some of the builders that you're seeing in like deep West Knox, Goodall Homes, Saddlebrook, Ball homes. You're not seeing building in Powell, but you are seeing Smith built, and some like D.R. Horton adjacent. So that kind of area, gray area between Karns and Powell, you have D.R. Horton building as well. Level, this says 65 out of 101, and actually comparatively, I would say Powell is more level than Karns, so I'm actually not thinking people are exaggerating there, which would it further indicate when I asked for how many Mountain View properties are there. It says 4 out of 101, basement 7 out of 101, and nothing currently with a pool. So pool homes go fast, so I think that's part of it right now, but I'm surprised about that basement number. I would think that more of these, and these are basement ranchers, 2-story with basement or 3-story plus basement. Only 7 listed, so that's interesting. But overall, Powell, super cool area. Now, when it comes to the schools, Powell High School has a rating, according to niche.com, of a C+, which actually I thought it would be higher than that. Again, we're taking all this data with a grain of salt. They got an A- in sports. I do want to tell you that Powell comes to play when you play them. They're always kind of there as a contender when it comes on the sports end of things. So I will just, again, take all this data with a grain of salt. I could do a whole video about what else to consider besides school data, which maybe I should do that now that I'm thinking about it, whatever. Okay, so 78 out of 465 for the best high schools in Tennessee for athletes. 131 out of 386 for most diverse in Tennessee. Number 11 out of 52 in the Knoxville area for athletics. 13 for diversity, and then number 8 in Knox County for athletics. So overall, really cool place. You have a good mix of residential and then access to kind of every shopping that you want in Powell. So that's kind of cool. And it's nice because it's kind of this access to downtown, access to West Knox, access to Norris. So you kind of have that nice little pocket there. All right, Powell. So Powell is, you do have, unlike Karns, similar to Farragut, you do have some addresses that are Powell. But Powell is not its own incorporated place. It doesn't have its own kind of governing body as does Farragut. But it is a very specific, well-loved part of Knox County. So in terms of where it is locationally, it is north of town, and it is, to me, the sister to Karns further east, but still north of town. And it is similar to Karns in that you can get there and everywhere else and avoid I-40 altogether. Now you can see that, like, here's 40 down here, right? So the nice thing about Powell is you can get to downtown without getting on 40. You can get to Oak Ridge without getting on 40. You can get to Karns. You can get to Harden Valley. You can even get to, you can even get to Farragut by avoiding I-40. Like, you don't even have to get on 40. You can go over and down. You can wiggle your way on back roads, but essentially Powell is nice for that reason because you can just avoid the 40 traffic altogether. It's also nice because it is one of the closer options towards Norris Lake. So Norris is up here. So that would be probably your lake of choice. You do have Mountain Hill over here, but Norris Lake is just much, much larger. So it's kind of your not last stop in Knox County before you get to Norris from a Knox County perspective, but it is further north. And then if we were to look at, okay, well, if I show you what is zone Powell, so you can kind of see what I mean. It is this kind of pocket that's between, this is Clinton Highway that goes to Clinton, and then you've got 75. So it's in this kind of little pocket there. So that is Powell. I will also point out to you that Powell has access to a lot of things different from like Karns. For an example, this exit, this is the Emory Road exit, and Emory Road is a major exit. So you have a giant Kroger Marketplace, like over here, you've got an Aubrey's, you've got a wing place over here, you've got restaurants and shopping all down here. There's a Starbucks right there. So Powell, this kind of outskirts, because once we go that way, we're going kind of towards Halls, but it certainly has options for places to eat and stuff like that. Now, they are primarily chain restaurants, not a ton of like boutique-y, bougie, type stuff like that. But you are also not that far from getting into downtown by 75, or if you're on this side, you're going to take Clinton Highway essentially into downtown. So that is Powell. Oh, the other thing I want to point out to you about Powell is if I show you, let me show you the schools similarly to Farragut. So if you go look at Farragut, the schools are like right there. And I'm going to show you that is the same with like Powell High School. Powell is off the main road. Powell High School is literally off this main road, Emory Road. It's just sits right here on the corner, like, and you've got the football field over here. It's just right in the freaking middle of Powell. So that's kind of cool too, I think. All right, number 3, let's talk about Fountain City. Now, Fountain City is the smallest kind of area of all of those that we are talking about today. And it's a little bit different in that Karns has Karns High School, and then Powell has Powell High School, and Fountain City, not so much. It's this tiny little pocket. It's just north of downtown. And this would be a great area if you love a historic home, if you love older homes, if you love little quaint neighborhoods. It's got that whole little cutesy, bougie, boutique-y vibe. You've got some cute coffee shops. You've got some cool restaurants that are not chained. There's a restaurant called Litton's. That's cool. But they also have Chick-fil-A, and they also have Chop House. They've got Sweet Peas Barbecue. I mean, they've got all kinds of different little places that are cool. And a couple of boutiques. That one of them actually is one of my favorite boutiques in Knoxville. It's called Gracie's, and it's right on Broadway, and it is so good. She always has different stuff that nobody else has. Okay, so Fountain City, mostly 37918. What's also cool and how we kind of know that it's a little bit more historic is that several neighborhoods in Fountain City are part of the Dogwood Trail. So in the month of April, we have 14 areas in Knoxville that are part of the Dogwood Trail, and 2 of those are Fountain City centric. There's a neighborhood called Harrell Hills, and it is beautiful. I have clients that like one time we were looking at houses, and they were like, this is like Narnia, like it's beautiful. It feels like it feels like a whole other land, because it's so green and there's dogwoods everywhere, and there are some really, really beautiful homes in the Fountain City, Harrell Hills area. So when it comes to Fountain City in general, again, it is a small pocket, and I only pulled actually on the residential real estate data, I pulled from 2 elementary schools. Because as I said, Fountain City does not have its own high school. It is such a small pocket. Fountain City homes themselves are zoned for Central High School, which is a Knox County school, but Central High School covers a lot of communities, not just Fountain City. So I felt like that data wouldn't be great. Then if we backed it up a little further, we've got Gresham Middle, and then some areas zoned for Powell Middle, so I didn't want to pull that. So I pulled the 2 elementary schools that are primarily Fountain City, which would be Shenandoah and Fountain City Elementary. Now, Fountain City Elementary is like in the heart of Fountain City, next to the duck pond, and Shenandoah is more the Harrell Hills area of Fountain City. So that being said, if we look at what's happening with real estate, again, I pulled from areas zoned for those 2 elementary schools only. You can see the feeder pattern that I show from Central down, but I just wanted to point out, like, it makes more sense to pull from these 2 schools. So on the data end of things from real estate, if we look at what's happening, the average sold price over the last 90 days for Fountain City properties, $391,588. So a little bit more expensive than Powell, a little bit less than Karns. 96% sell to list price ratio. So we're seeing buyers that are getting properties not quite at list price, 48 days on market. So things aren't moving as quickly. And I think a part of that is a lot of these homes are older. And so it's a very specific buyer. This is not really a location that you're gonna go if you want a brand new house. It's not for you. Like, go to Karns, go to Harden Valley, check that out. Okay, so when it comes to there was 56 total properties that transacted over the last 90 days. Of those, 28, half of them were built 1970 or prior. So again, like I said, this is an area for somebody that loves an old, quaint property with like all the cute stuff, right? And then the next largest group was 2000 to 2009. 10 of the 56 listed properties were built in that 2000 to 2009 era, and everything else is just a very small group. So, Fountain City is certainly, if you want that quaint, older home, established neighborhood, beautiful yards, dogwood trail access. It's very, I did a video also of Holston Hills. Actually, I don't think, I have done the dogwood trails for Fountain City. I have videoed those. So go check that out because you're going to see what I mean when I'm talking about kind of the real estate there and the quaintness of it. When it comes to properties that are level, this says 36 out of 56. Mountain Views 3 out of 56, nothing had a pool, and 11 out of 56 had a basement. Keep in mind that could be an unfinished basement, that could be primarily a basement rancher is what you're going to see in Fountain City. And then when it comes to overall looking at the schools, again, I pulled Shenandoah Elementary and I pulled Fountain City. So Shenandoah Elementary has an A-, number 6 best public elementary school in Knox County. Very, very highly regarded public elementary school in the area. Extremely highly regarded. 46 out of 967 for the best elementary schools teachers in Tennessee. 131 out of 1,000 for the best public elementary school in Tennessee, and 475 out of 1,000 for the most diverse. The other school I pulled to find our data is Fountain City Elementary. That got a grade of an overall B. And again, pretty well rated when it comes to what's happening with Fountain City Elementary. 289 out of 967 for best public schools in the state of Tennessee. Then if we back that up and we go from elementary to middle to high school, we have Central High School. Central High School has a grade of a B-, an A for diversity, B- for teachers, B- for college prep, B+ for sports. Central High School is very competitive when it comes to sports for sure. Again, this has a C-, and I'm telling you that all the food is the same at all the schools, okay? It's school cafeteria food, okay? Especially for the high schools, that's what I'm referring to. So for Tennessee, Central High School, 46 out of 386 for most diverse in the state of Tennessee. 111 for athletics in the state of Tennessee out of 465. Number 4 out of 42 for most diverse. 16 of 52 for one of the best schools for athletes in the Knoxville area. And there's similar stats for Knox County itself. So that is Fountain City. Think quaint, think older houses, just very cutesy area. Cutesy. And then Fountain City is very accessible to kind of everything that you would need. You are north of downtown, and Broadway can be horrible traffic. So I want to point. All right, so Fountain City is just north of downtown. So if we see, here's downtown Knoxville, and Fountain City is up Broadway, aka 441. But this is what we would term Broadway. It goes up that way past the 640 loop. And I ended up using, just to show you for context, elementary schools to show Fountain City, because there is not like a Fountain City high school. And the high school where Fountain City is zoned is Central, and Central covers a very large area. So Fountain City is, like, if you were to go to Google and say Fountain City, it will refer to it as a neighborhood. It's not a neighborhood, it's an area. And basically, once you're past 640 up Broadway, you are in Fountain City. So Fountain City is interesting because, like, it has grocery stores, it has Chick-fil-A, it has that kind of stuff. It's got a couple little boutique restaurants, but things like Target, etc., you would go elsewhere for those things. Washington Pike, this is where you have, there's a Target there in Old Navy. That's all this stuff over here, not that far. But Fountain City itself, think more like boutique-y. They've got a duck pond, which is this Fountain City Lake and Park is what that's referring to. There's a walking trail there. And then it is kind of the go between, essentially, like, here's downtown. We go through Broadway, like through Central and Fulton and all that. And then if you keep going north, you've got Fountain City, which is here. And if you continue north, you're into Halls. So it's kind of the in-between. It's like downtown Knoxville, Fountain City, and then Halls. So it's kind of this little pocket. It's a very quaint, very cute area. So that is Fountain City. Check that out. All right, finally, number 4, very underrated, and some people might say overrated area of Knoxville is South Knoxville. So South Knoxville is primarily definition of up and coming. So South Knoxville is across the river. It is one giant zip code, 37920. It's got one high school that serves the whole area, South Doyle, and you have a diversity of real estate, from water frontage to student housing to like old, dilapidated, to giant yards to dogwood trail luxury. I mean, you have pretty much a diversity of everything. The other thing that's cool about South Knoxville is, like I said, up and coming. You've got an area, it's a road called Sevier Avenue, which kind of sits across from downtown and goes along the Tennessee River. You've got Sutry's Landing, like really cool restaurants and bars coming in there. We have Karns Bakery. Karns Bakery is about to be a food hall that's opening. And then we've got historical neighborhoods like Colonial Village, Lindbergh Forest, Island Home. And Island Home, that is on the Dogwood Trail. I mean, there's just very diverse areas. You've got Lakemore Hills, and that is the waterfront. So South Knox pretty much has real estate to offer to everyone. It is more of the word that's coming to mind is like grungy, outdoorsy. Like there's Baker Creek Preserve, there's Imes Nature Center. I mean, tons of like outdoor stuff. But it's just more of like I don't know. It's more of a hip vibe. Maybe that's what it is. It's hip. So, want to point out about South Knoxville. Now, when it comes to real estate in South Knoxville, what are we talking about? Again, please bear in mind that this is Karns, Powell, Fountain City that we've all talked about. A lot of that real estate is very similar. Whereas in South Knoxville, the data is for all kinds of properties. Condos, waterfront condos, new townhouses, dilapidated, waterfront $1 million, regular single family. So there is a diversity of property when we're talking about South Knoxville in this data. So over the past 90 days, 237 overall homes were transacted. Average sold price $391,588. So that goes Karns, then South Knox, then Fountain City, then Powell in order of like most expensive to least expensive. So second highest in these four that we're talking about today. And again, you do have quite a bit of older property here. Out of 237 properties, 107 were built before 1970. Other groups of significance, 2000 to 2009, 37 out of 237 properties were built at that time. And then new construction, 39 out of 237. So that number is going to continue to increase as more development comes into South Knox. Right now, we have a couple one-off builders building kind of little pockets or extensions of neighborhoods. D.R. Horton is building in South Knox. Turner Homes is building at the very, 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 very far edge. Like, I'm in Seymour, right at the Knox County line, and they're building literally a football field away, maybe 2 football fields. And I mean, that's pretty much as far south as you can get in the county, and that's Turner, and those are townhomes right now going in. So, but D.R. Horton is building single family homes, and then every other new construction that you're seeing for the most part is a one-off builder, a smaller builder, not big box. So Saddlebrook is not here, Ball Homes is not in South Knox, Goodall is not in South Knox. So, you know, something to think about. When it comes to level properties, this says 129 out of 237 are level. So about half. 9 have a mountain view, 54 with a basement, and 5 with a pool. All of those out of 237 total transactions. So not really for mountain views, not really for pools, whatever. But what is kind of cool is the closer that you are into town, South Knox could be an option if you're wanting walkable. So Fountain City, not walkable. Powell, not walkable. Karns, not walkable. Parts of hear me what I'm saying. Parts of South Knoxville are walkable. If you were to look at a map and you type in 37920, type it in, and then you type in Moody Avenue. Pretty much Moody Avenue, up Chapman, and north, that area could be considered walkable. Now, there is talk of a pedestrian bridge that's supposed to be coming in that's going to connect across basically from Neyland Stadium across the river into South Knoxville, which would also up the walkableness of South Knox, but when I say walkable, I mean very specifically you are basically just off Sevier Avenue and maybe a little bit further out, maybe to Moody. So, you know, there is that potential there. The negative about South Knox is you are likely, like, there is no Target. No. There is no Sam's Club. There's certainly no Costco. There's no mall. There's Kroger. There's supposedly a market coming in on Sevier Avenue that's a smaller, like, kind of like Three Rivers Market in North Knox. But TBD. So where would you go for groceries? Well, you could go to the Kroger. There's a Kroger on Chapman Highway. On the highway, there's a Food City. We do have a Starbucks. We do have a Lowe's. We do have a Home Depot. We have all that stuff. So for me, I'm just across the county line. I go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's typically. So I drive out for those things. You know, it really just depends on your preference. The further out you are, obviously, the further you're going to be driving to get to things. But I will say that it is more convenient if you're thinking like, I want to be hanging out downtown, I want to be near breweries, I want to be near bars, cool restaurants. This is your best option besides somewhere north of town and downtown, because you can access downtown Knoxville so easily from South Knoxville. So pros and cons for sure. Now let's talk about schools. So South Doyle is the high school in South Knoxville. Then you've got South Doyle Middle, and then you've got a cascade of elementary schools. So overall, South Doyle High School is given a grade of a C+. As we suspected, the food is given a C-. You can check out the grades: C for academics, B+ diversity, B- for teachers, etc. It has 1,038 students, so it's one of the smaller high schools. It's a bit larger than Powell, but not overall huge. But okay, if we look at overall ratings for the state of Tennessee, South Doyle 116 out of 386 for most diverse, and 180 out of 465 for best schools for athletes. Now, their football program is huge. Recently, they won a state championship, I believe. And South Doyle is interesting because I need to brush up on my South Knox history. But basically, he graduated from South Doyle High School, but prior to that, he had gone to Doyle. So originally, there were 2 high schools, and now you've got just the one high school. All that to say, their athletics, the football program, very robust, as well as some other sports as well. In the Knoxville area, again, 20 out of 52 for best schools for athletes, 8 out of 42 for diversity. In Knox County, number 7, most diverse in Knox County, and number 14 out of 28, so right in the middle for athletics. So obviously, in this area, given the fact that we are an SEC location for University of Tennessee for SEC sports, football is huge, baseball, basketball, all that's huge. Sports are a huge thing. So actually all of these schools and areas that we talked about today are very heavily involved in school sports at that level. So anyways, that is South Knoxville. I think South Knoxville is certainly if you want to be outdoors, if you're kind of wanting an up and coming area. Now there are some parts that are on the Dogwood Trail, so you do have that kind of quaint real estate, but you also have real estate that's out in the middle of nowhere. Literally. Not that great when it comes to getting to West Knox. It is super great if you're trying to get to downtown or to the airport, super accessible. And I think long term on the real estate end, there's going to be a ton of upside. There's going to be a ton of development coming in. So this is certainly an area to watch for sure. All right, South Knoxville. So South Knoxville is technically this whole zip code, 37920. I've done several videos about different pockets of South Knoxville, but specifically we're talking about this whole entire area. So as you can see, it is huge. You can notice that you've got Tennessee River frontage. This is French Broad water frontage here. Holston goes north, or is north, but this is Holston River and French Broad come into the Tennessee River. So right here, where you see this, that is where the 2 rivers intersect and create the Tennessee River. So South Knox is also water frontage. Well, you can see this little cut through here. All of this, that is all technically South Knox. And then over here, once the rivers come together, this is all Tennessee River. So a couple things to note about South Knox. First of all, you have downtown right there. There's an area called Sevier Avenue, and that's literally basically all of this right here. And that is a booming booming, big, huge, massive growth part of South Knoxville. We have a neighborhood called Lakemore Hills. This is like South Knoxville's version of Sequoia Hills. Notice that Sequoia Hills and Cherokee Boulevard are right here, so it's kind of across the river from like some of the most expensive real estate. So for some, this would be a great option if you want less expensive waterfront than what you're going to pay in Sequoia Hills and Cherokee Boulevard. The other thing I want to point out to you is you got two major roads that go through South Knoxville. One is this 441, or what we call Chapman Highway. This goes to Sevierville, to the mountains, on and on and on. And then we've got this right here, this road. Let me pick a different color. Here is Alcoa Highway, and Alcoa Highway goes to Maryville, Townsend, basically to the airport. And then so this 141 is, or 140 is Pellissippi. So from South Knoxville, this road right here is the top side, so you can get to West Knox that way, or you would go all the way into Alcoa and go to West Knox down. So, you know, in terms of like getting to places, there's certain areas of South Knox that make more sense than others, right? Because you don't want to be over here and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have my kids go to school all the way over here at Webb. It's even a little further than where this is. Like that makes zero sense. However, if you're living here and you're like, okay, I want my kids to go over there, then you have a quick scoot around this way, down 40, or you can go down Alcoa and up Pellissippi. So just when you're thinking about South Knoxville, it is a very, diversified kind of portfolio of real estate. You have everything from super high-end luxury. You have UT housing over here, which is not technically UT housing, but this is all kind of like student housing. You've got the water frontage stuff happening. You've got townhouses and condos being built. You've got historic right here, Dogwood Trail, Colonial Village, Lindbergh Forest. You have all these kind of different pockets. And then as you get out further, that's when you start to see more land, some more established neighborhoods, and then you've got one-off on random windy roads. So certainly, very diverse pockets of real estate. The other thing I want to show you is there is kind of this cut through that runs through South Knoxville, and that is what we call John Sevier Highway. So John Sevier runs pretty much across the entire zip. And then there's also a connector for Chapman Highway. So sometimes, for example, if I want to avoid Chapman Highway, then I will get off on 40 here, and I will go Alcoa Highway to Chapman and then into Seymour, because I live basically right here, right there. So John Sevier, like I said, is kind of that cut through to get through. And then you've got James White Parkway, which is another access to get to 40 if you want to avoid the on-ramp here to 40 is literally heinous. So, or I guess it's over here, but you know what I mean. So those are kind of some of the main parts. I wanted to also show you, if we look at South Doyle. So there's one high school for the entire area, and this is kind of irrelevant because essentially it's the entire zip code is zoned for South Doyle High School, but just wanted to kind of show you what's going on there. Why is that only saying 27? I have some setting on here, but anyways, that's current actives, whatever, active and pending. So that is South Knox. All right, so those are 4 underrated areas that no one really ever asks about when it comes to the Knoxville area, and definitely perks to consider, pros and cons for all. Of course, I would love to speak with you if you are considering about the area or considering about the area. If you are thinking and trying to decide where you want to live or where you want to buy in Knoxville, call me because I can help you. All right, well, hope this has been helpful as always, and I will continue to create more content for you. Let me know what you want to know about. Always click subscribe. Give me a call if you need any help or text, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.